Alright, I'm going to be showing you how Swim and DJ Heartstring are combining Eurodance and trance to make this awesome style of music. You can get the template at the top of the description on my website so you can follow along and make awesome tracks yourself. Thanks for the support, guys, and let's dive in. We're on 147 BPM. Eurodance definitely tends to be a little bit faster. First thing we got here is our main drums. Right, I like to start with these, just get that main original groove, then kind of move up to the bass line. All this stuff has to work together to begin with, though. We're doing a bit of magic on all of these, starting with the kick. So this kick here, it was a little bit longer. I shortened it. And also tuned it just so it would be in key with the bass. The way I do that is I bring it up really high. So there I'm taking it up a few octaves. Right, and you can hear the pitch of it a little bit better. And to tell you the truth, I don't even always worry about whether, like, this could be a fifth, it could be a root note. It's like, it's kind of just as long as it's harmonious with the kick or with the bass. I'm not really too picky. I really just try to make sure it's, like, not fighting, right? So I've got that. I got a little bit of roar on there. So here's without it. With it. Now, this kick, if you listen in the mix without the roar, the low end powers through, but it doesn't have that like high end and like the click as much. Now check out if I bring in this roar. It gives you the click and like that high end and the kick that you want. The way we're doing this is keeping the lows undistorted, so the lows are just really clean, and then the mids and the highs are distorted, as you can see, mostly the mids. You want to make sure you change this low setting as well, because by default, right, you're going to be doing that. So you want to make sure it's really more so in like the mids and highs. Like if we looked at this on like the actual frequency spectrum, you would, right, it's really like up there where you want to distort, right? So I've got that. It's just dry wet at 78%. Then we got our clap. Now this clap, dry, sounds like this. You can see I had that little tail. I cut that off. You just want a really short, punchy clap. It goes really well with the kick. And then this trance kind of secret that a lot of people do, where you basically have a reverb with a pre-delay, and then you distort it a little bit. So basically what it's doing is you're kind of getting that like extra rhythm, like it's bouncing off of the kick there, right? But then, and off of the clap with the pre-delay, and it's also very like tight and focused with the filter. And then I've got a distortion on there, so without, it just brings it out a bit more and makes it a bit more kind of like in that drum percussion range where you want it to be. And then we got the hi-hat. So this hi-hat's made with 3 layers to get a really fat one, because what I was trying to do is get really tight and short, but have it hit as hard as like a big open hi-hat, right? So, and really match that kick. Like if you can really make those hit the same, or maybe not the same, but hit hard enough together, so much of your groove is going to sit really well under that. The way I've achieved this is it's this layer. So kind of like a bit more mid-range punch. This one, which is a bit more on the high end. You can see I got the start times lined up as well. So you put those together and you get this very like full punchy hi-hat, because also the transients are hitting together. But then I also added this. So it's basically a little shaker that I made with white noise. You can see we got literally just some white noise and operator shaped like that, and then a high pass filter. And then with that attack, it kind of comes off of the other two. Like, notice you don't hear it, but then if I bring the attack up, because it's literally like you have those transients, and then you let this come like right after, and it just gives you the extra sparkle. The other thing is you're going to end up with weird phase stuff when you start to layer these a lot. So what I've done is I've got this utility, converting everything to mono. Here's without it. With it. And for these like main drums, really, like I said, they really need to be kind of right down the center, right? So then we got all our percussion. If I just play it all together, Right, there's a lot of energy that's being added from this, like when you hear it all together. A lot of it is little call and response stuff. Like here I have this, basically I had some bongo hits that I chopped up and kind of like put on this syncopated beat, and then this little thing. Right, if I play this with the metronome. Right, so there's like the call and response between those two. I pitched that first one a little bit too. I got this little rim shot here. Right, like I've heard a lot of that 808 percussion in the Heartstring tracks. I think it kind of brings it back to more old school stuff. I've got this little hi-hat. Like some live hi-hats that I basically sped up and I pitched them up too because it's on repitch, so it's going up higher. And then this auto pan, so it kind of gets like the side chaining effect. And it helps it groove. We also got this one, which is programmed. You can hear they fit into different places though, and that's also got the auto pen. Then we got some rave loops. So it's this one, which is kind of quiet, but it's just adding some percussion, and then also this. So this one I've only taken the high end. It's literally just like you have the drums and then you want it to sit. Like this is without it. And then you add this. Right, there's a lot of energy that gets added from that. Because really the energy of your track is in the high end. And a lot of that high end comes from percussion like this. So, you know, just taking that and just having the high end puts its auto pan, so it'll just kind of bounce off the kick. Really adds a lot, again, when we take it away. So that's really the drums. They sound, you know, there's a lot of layers, but it's really not that complicated to do. I think you just need a really powerful main drums and then just the call and response percussion and kind of just having like some energy from some more high-end stuff as well. Then we got the bass line. Now one thing I noticed these guys do really well is a lot of times, like, you know, the classic trance bass is just more so like going on the upbeats, like something like this. You know, like that, except that one there. Right, but these guys were like, well, what if we just kind of make it a little bit more groovy? Right, and it does a lot for the track. I mean, just these three elements are so much of what you're hearing. As far as like the actual progression goes, it's going, we're in G sharp minor, 1, 3, 4. Like it's a pretty, you know, it's that upbeat, intense, kind of moving, not so like deep, just powerful bass line that's gonna sit with all this other more deep synths. Now, for the sound on here, I wanted to show you guys how to make a different kind of trance bass, because a lot of people will show you, you know, oh, just take a saw wave and make it plucky with a low pass filter, and that's definitely, like, you can do that, but it's just been done so much. So I wanted to kind of open the conversation to just some more creative ideas maybe with this. So the way that I've done this here is it's FM synthesis. So we're starting with this wave, which is 4 sine waves FMing each other, all at the same octave, except I'm playing with the envelope on the 4th one. Right, let's get that really short, punchy envelope. So it's adding a bit more attack. So you start with this big kind of, not even like the most harmonically rich waveform, but definitely it's got a lot of that. And then we're doing the low pass pluck with that. And you get this huge bass that still sits in the same spot as like that kind of classic trance bass, but you're just not fighting. And it's not going to be so boring, like, to be honest with you. Like, we just got to do some different stuff here. Also, I did notice, I think this is how they made the bass in that Heartstring and Swim track as well. That was definitely not just a basic trance bass. Subcut. Cutting out some of these nasty frequencies that you can't really hear that'll mess up your master. And then we're sidechaining it to the kick. Then we move down to this pad. Now what we're doing here is it's kind of loosely in the key, and it's following the chord progression in the sense that it walks up the scale, and it does do those same voices in the root, but it's not really like normal chords. For example, here, okay, we got a root note, a fifth, a ninth, and then a fifth up top. And then that same fifth just drones for the whole thing. So it's really more so like knowing the scale, or at least looking at the scale, and kind of creating like, I wouldn't even say your own chords, but just not like very basic stuff, you know, just putting notes together that are in the same key that are going to speak to each other. Like in the sense, you know, the fifth and the root are always going to do something. If you add that ninth, you know, and then drone on it. And that's the other thing too, is like having certain voices drone the whole way. And then it goes here and it goes up one, right? Like, and I think that can complement the bass line and kind of where you're going melodically a lot better. Than just giving you that same old boring, just, we're just going to do the same chords, right? So, for this one, it's made with operator. It's starting its life as this. So it's a square wave. You can see we're actually not doing any FM. It's a square wave, a little bit of noise, and then a saw wave. So you get like this. And then a low pass filter, cutting it and just making it a bit deeper. Then a bunch of reverb. Which is obviously really nice with the sound, and you can see it's all the way wet too, so you're kind of getting this like, it's a different texture, you know, it's not just saw waves and square waves anymore, it's kind of taking it into something else. And then I have a trance gate. Now, the way we make the trance gate effect is you're going to have a muted track under this. That's what this operator is. It's muted, and it's doing this. The actual pattern, right? Notice the note lengths are very important here. Like when I had these two too long, for example, you can end up with, you know, it doesn't really hit the same as. So you're going to do that, and then yeah, it's just operator, white noise. The envelope is just really simple. You play a note, it plays, you stop, it stops, nothing crazy. That's really it. It's basically just a stop operator beside that. And then we've got the gate is sidechain. So basically if you sidechain with the compressor, the sound goes away when the sidechain plays. But if you sidechain with a gate, the sound only plays when the sidechain plays. So then we're sidechaining to that. You want to make sure you bring the return down, because if you don't, it's a bit messier. This is how you get that really tight. And then dial in the threshold. The threshold is basically the amount. And if you kind of go like slightly above or under, you know, it kind of becomes not that same thing anymore. So you want to really stick to that being like where it works best. Then we got an echo. Kind of bringing back some of that, like, you know, rhythm and time kind of effects, and like spreading it out a little, because I think the super dry trance gate isn't great. But you also need to play with this dry wet and not make it too high, because otherwise you kind of lose. You know, especially like that sounds cool on its own, but then in the mix you can really lose the rhythm of the trance gate. So you want to make sure, like, just listen to it in your whole mix and make sure you can still hear that kind of rhythm. Then we got the Haas effect. So it super spreads it out. You're basically taking the left ear and it's staying in the same time, and then the right ear you use this 100% wet delay with no feedback to just push the contents of the right ear 10 milliseconds forward. I think it's anywhere from like 10 to like 60 or 70 milliseconds. And you get the super wide sound. The other thing is on its own, it just sounds a little bit wider. But then in the mix, it sits in a whole different place. Like, I'll show you that. We got the sidechain on the compressor and then a high pass filter. But check this out in the whole mix without the Haas effect. So So you can hear it. It's a bit subtle, but it pushes it out to the left and right ear so that you can actually really like hear this a bit more, and it sits in its own spot. Then we got this little pluck lead. So what we're doing here, if we're in G sharp minor, this is going 5th, and then it just goes up to the root note and the last every 4 bars basically. But listen to what, even though that seems really simple, listen to what it does over top of the chord progression. It works really, really well, and it's cool how it kind of anchors it just droning on that 5th. Plus, not to mention that it is what the pad's kind of doing. Plus the rhythm against the bass line too. Like if you hear that where the bass is super syncopated and this is on the upbeats. It's really groovy like that. So what we're doing here is we've got this wavetable patch. It's just one saw wave, low pass filter with a pluggy envelope, a bunch of unison, some delay, which is on ping pong, so we're kind of spreading it out. So it sounds like this just coming out of the synth. And then delay. Then I got this little hybrid reverb. It's really subtle, but you can hear it's just adding a cool texture. You can even bring it up. You know, again, we're just trying to do little things to make it a little fresh and not just like really basic, obvious stuff. Reverb. And then sidechain to the kick with a compressor. And then the last layer here is these little chord plucks. Now, these are the exact same chords that the pad's playing. The only difference is that it's got this rhythm that follows the bass. You can see I left out the note here, but then the delay kind of fills it in. So you get some really cool stuff going on against the bass with that. The way I made these, I'll turn off the effects. It's this operator patch. So we're basically creating this kind of FM digital sounding pluck, right? It's all sine waves. You know, sine waves tend to work the best for this because like if you try to put in a saw wave here, it's just so intense. You know, it can really like, this is how you can really build up the harmonics rather than try to like have to clean it up later. So we're starting like this. Then you bring in this oscillator, it's 4 octaves up. And then this one, and this one just has the really short envelope, so you can hear it's just adding that impact at the start. So we got that, and then a low pass filter with an envelope, which you can even tweak more to get more of a plucky sound. Then we got some delay. The dotted eighth notes, that's what the 3 is, and with the ping pong, it sounds really good. Sidechain. And then a high pass filter too, because you don't want this to get in the way of the bass. Like a lot of those low frequencies that were present would have totally clashed with that, so I just made sure to cut it. Then we got some vocals. I have these on 2 tracks, but they're basically all working together. But see, that last one is meant to just, it's less singing, and it's meant to be a little more like, you know, like a stab. So I wanted to process that on its own. Basically on this one, it's starting like this. And we got some quarter note delay, ping pong, so it's really wide. Plus reverb, which brings out that delay a little bit. Sidechain to the kick and high pass. So yeah, a lot of times people want to know what the crazy vocal processing secrets are, and it's really like, at least as far as this kind of music goes, it's really just finding something that has the texture, maybe some delay and reverb, but it's like, I'm trying to use, like if you listen, this has like a vintage vibe to it. You know, it sounds a little bit crunchy. It adds some texture. It's got the panning thing going on that you can hear. So it's like, I feel like the way this stuff usually works is more so finding something and trying to bring its texture in and maximize it for your track like that, rather than trying to like do some crazy processing. Same thing down here. So by default, these sound like this. Beauty. You know, there's already a lot of cool sound going on and cool texture in these vocals. They just work in the same pitch. I did have to pitch them, obviously, to make them fit the key, just by ear, listening to like the other parts. Beauty. Plus, I added this auto shift, so just a bit of auto tune, and I put it in G sharp minor. Beauty. Yeah, just make sure you can hear it sounds a little bit cleaner when you do that. Reverb and delay. I'll put the delay after the reverb too, so you get kind of a cool sound. When you have such a long reverb tail that's literally getting extra repeats onto it, right? That's how you want to think about it. Sidechain compressor. And then a high pass, because these you can hear. Like if I turn that off, there's a lot of like just muddy frequencies in there, so I've just cut that. And there you go. And then you have like enough vocals that you're kind of never not hearing. You know, and I think that's the thing too. I can show you how to process these. I can show you where to get them. You gotta make sure you use enough of them so that like it feels like it's constantly going. Yeah, so that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, make sure to grab this template so you can make the best trance track of your life today. Plus, help support me so I can keep bringing you guys new tutorials like this and showing you how to really make this music the way they really do it. Thanks for the support, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.